emotional position after watching videos like this. I kind of feel a part of hopelessness and anger. The flight or fight instinct kicks in, and you think there's no way that one person can fight this. Our founders understood that as well, and it makes the mind wander to like, well, where else is there to go? It's not like we can all just move to some other country that has it better and set up shop. We were it. That was us. We were the last-ditch effort. That's kind of a depressing fact. This being the last little lesson I'm going to give, I tried to go full circle on this. I started off talking about kind of the state of America. Inadvertently, I ended up coming back to that. Homeschooling Josh Jr., we were going through one of his Bible class quizzes, and a question popped up, true or false. It said, people worship that which they find to have value or worth. The answer, of course, is true. And I saw it, and I got up and walked away, and my mind starts to wander. What do we put value and worth in this country? Is it God? Well, clearly not, looking at the video. The Bible tells us that God is worthy, that he has value. One of the examples is in Psalms 145:3. It says, great is the Lord, and most worthy of praise. His greatness no one can fathom. It says it again in Revelations 4, chapter 11. It says, you are worthy, our Lord and God, to receive glory and honor and power, for you created all things, and by your will they were created and have their being. So we know, as Christians, what true value, what true worth is. We know where to put our value and worth and what to worship. But we've gotten to a point in society where we've let them infiltrate our churches, and then in doing so our minds, not intentionally, not in a way that we've seen, that we don't even have the drive to go speak to our own neighbors a lot of times about what true worth and value is. A good example of that, I pulled these off the internet. The average American spends 19.7 hours a week in front of the TV. It's about half as much time as we spend at work. We spend another 5 hours per week socializing, 3 hours playing games. So the 28 hours of the week that we spend not working, 28 hours we spend playing. We spend 45 hours per week at work on average. We spend 8 hours per day sleeping. So to sum up this, if we spend 8 hours sleeping or getting ready to sleep, 9 hours at work, hour and a half driving, 5.5 hours of free time per day, we spend 6 hours per day playing. Statistically, we somehow manage to spend 0.9 hours messing around more than there is in a day, which means we've taken away from something else because we put our value and our worth in watching someone else live their life while we sit in our chairs and do nothing. We somehow as a nation spend more time playing than we have, and then we look at our lives and wonder why we have no time for God or our family. We sit there saying, what happened? Well, what happened is Rachel ended up dating Chandler. That's what happened, and you got to see the whole thing. But what you missed was that your daughter was dating this sleazebag because you were too busy watching the lives of people in New York who are make-believe than watching the people who you're actually responsible for. We have to change this. At the end, the narrator talked about our society degrading to the point of civil disobedience, to the point of degradation. We're not that far away from where Ukraine is now, where they're writing these letters. We had to move because our house got shelled. We had to move again because the bullets started flying again. Reagan said we're only one generation away from losing our freedom. Well, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It can happen in half a generation, or it can happen in 2 generations, or it can happen in 3 generations, but it can happen as fast as one. We're watching it slowly slip away. But like a car rolling downhill, it's picking up speed. We have to change it. Our nation's values have changed so much that it even drives a wedge between our families. And it's a double-edged sword. Our society makes us so that we want more. And so to achieve that want, both parents end up having to work to make enough money to achieve that which we've been told we need, But now that there's more money, those things that we need go up in price. So even though you're both working, you still can't afford them. And this cycle perpetuates. But we aren't meant to want for these worldly things. We have to change the hearts and the minds of our nations. That's the true way you win in any conflict, is hearts and minds. Matthew chapter 6, 19 through 21 says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moths and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, no thieves do not break in or steal. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also." We spend so much time working for our earthly treasures and then recuperating from that work that we've got no time left to dedicate in the investment of our heavenly treasures. So what are we laying up for ourselves? Luke chapter 12, 15, it says, "And he said to them, take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." I'll be the first to admit, in my 20s, it was like, hey, I got a new blank, and check out my other thing, and look at my new computer, and look at this, and look at that. And it was social acceptance, please, I need it. But there comes a point in time where you have to look back and go, yeah, that was probably not a good idea. We're warned against this. Speaking about hearts and minds, Deuteronomy chapter 29, 18, specifically hearts, it says, "Make sure there is no man or woman, clan or tribe among you today whose heart turns away from the Lord our God to go and worship the gods of those nations. Make sure there is no root among you that produces such bitter poison." Minds, Romans 12:2, "Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." That's not where America's at anymore. We would rather follow the first part of this verse, Ecclesiastes 11:9. It says, "You who are young, be happy while you are young. Let your heart give you the joys and the days of your youth, but follow the ways of your heart and whatever your eyes see." They leave off the rest of the verse. It says, "But know that for all these things God will bring judgment upon you." That's what modern civilization is. Go be young. Go have fun. Go enjoy your youth. Don't worry about accountability. God specifically says that's not an excuse. The people mentioned, they're not just running amok in the world, but they're also running amok in our schools, in our churches, and in our homes. Isaiah 29:13, the Lord says, "These people come near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship of me is made up only of the rules taught by men." Nowadays, the rules taught by men are those of our society. The rules that our nations are imposing upon our churches right now they're so vast, it's beyond my desire to count. We've allowed our culture to brainwash us into a peg of how we should behave. What is socially acceptable for Christians? The big question is, why should I care what society expects of me? Because that's what they would tell the people who aren't Christians. It's okay to be different. Don't conform to society. Oh, you're a Christian? You need to conform. The big question is, who are we trying to impress? Who do we serve, and whose approval are we seeking? It shouldn't be our coworkers, our siblings. It should be God's, first and foremost. Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 5 and 6. "And the Levites," and I won't go through the names, "and the Levites said, Stand up and praise the Lord your God, who is from everlasting to everlasting. Blessed be your glorious name, and may it be exalted above all blessings and praise. You alone are the host, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. You give life to everything, and the multitudes of heaven worship you." An interesting line, "The multitudes of heaven worship you." If all of heaven is worshiping God, and we desire to get into heaven, what's the old saying? Dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So shouldn't we be dressing for that job? Another way to look at it is that our life on earth is simply an audition for heaven. And like an audition, you have to do the legwork. Not everyone can get in. You have to be prepared to be rejected and keep at it when doing God's work. Point of fact, an actor will normally get rejected 98 times before finding a single role in a commercial. Not in a TV show or a movie, a commercial, 98 rejections. It's the rule of 100. You can do something the same way 100 times, but eventually it's going to change. Do we put forth that much work for God? An audition for an actor is usually at least a single day's work. We pursue the dream of heaven, if we pursue the same dream of heaven with the same fortitude that we pursue our dreams of our life, then things will change. So again, think of your time on earth as an audition to get into heaven. If the multitudes of heaven are praising God in heaven, then shouldn't the multitudes of people trying to join them be praising God on earth? Not praising our jobs or our material possessions or our advancement in society. So the question off of that metaphor is, do you have what it takes to be the next contestant on Survivor Heaven Edition? Can you make it? So I'll admit again, the state of the nation right now is overwhelming. A lot of times I have counted this nation as completely lost, and I've resorted to preparing myself for its downfall. That's how bad it's gotten. That I went from being somebody who swears and affirms to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, etc., 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 so help me God, which I'm surprised that's still in the oath of office, to this place is messed up. There's no coming back from this. And that happened in about 1 year. But there is hope. We get our feelings, our desires, our dread of where we're heading from the select few that control what we see. The last statistic I saw was all the news stations, and it said, there was 106 separate major publications in America, and this many websites, they're all controlled by 4 people. 4 people, 3 Democrats and a Republican. And that doesn't matter what party they are, but it's the 4 people that matters. What are their hearts and minds? So if they come down and say, this is what the angle we're going to take, that's the angle that the news company is going to take because they value their jobs more than they value their virtues. We've been convinced to believe that we are living in a dark and dangerous world that is already without God. But the world that exists in your TV is not the real world. And the news fails to show the real world. This proved by a statistic I found. This is from 2012, and it's from the Aspen Institute of American Values. 63% of Americans say the nation is heading in a wrong direction. That's good. 70% say the nation's values are worse today than they were 10 years ago. 61% think that the freedom of religion is the top reason America is stronger than any other nation. 46% think the influence of religion is decreasing. 24% think it's increasing. 89% believe in God. 11% do not. 26% claim to attend church once per week. Other polls say that less than 20% actually do. The most reassuring thing is that 48% say that religion is very important in their lives. 29% say that it's fairly important. That gives me hope. If 89% believe in God, 48% say religion is very important, and 26% attend church, then this should be our goal as Christians. We, the less than 20%, need to focus on getting the other 26%, reaching that 48% who say religion is important in the church. You're not just going to find them and hold up a sign that says, if you were one of these people, come and see me. You're going to have to audition door to door to door, stranger on the street, friend down the road, to find those people. Get them into the churches. When 48% of people are in church and firm and steadfast in their convictions, we can then go get the other 41% who believe in God but don't attend church, who don't say religion is very important, but they at least believe in God, so at least we have that common factor. We can get them in church. Imagine a world where 89% of Americans are in church, even just for Sunday mornings. The people who are currently trying to change us are going to lose their minds. They won't know what to do with themselves. If 89% of Americans are united in the one simple fact that there is one true God who sent his Son down to die on the cross, and his name is Jesus Christ, and we can be saved through grace, baptism, etc., the New Testament, they will have nothing. Through that 89%, it will begin to increase again. It'll never be 100. But have them try to keep the Bibles out of school then. Have them try to take the Ten Commandments down from our state house grounds. Try to destroy the nation the way that they're still destroying it. We have the light. We have the knowledge. We have God. So long as there is one person trying to change, that one person can become two. And those two can become four, and those four become eight. And over time, they can become great, as long as their roots are deep with faith. We can be America again. So all we have to do is organize, motivate, unite, educate, and go. But that world is possible. It is within our grasp. It is achievable in this lifetime. But so is the alternative. Just like a car that's accelerating rapidly downhill, someone can jump in it, hit the brakes, throw that sucker in reverse, and go back to the top and go, nice try, gravity. We shouldn't worry about what the stranger that we don't know is going to think because we walked up to somebody else and said, let me tell you about God. We should worry about what God is going to think when we know we should do it and we don't. A lot of times people say, well, I think I'm going to get into heaven because I have a good heart. Well, it's your heart that's telling you to go talk to them. It's God speaking to you through your heart. Are you listening? Right now, we need less butts in our seats and more feet on the streets with the groups we have now. That's what we need. We need to change our priorities as a nation. This life is an audition. If you want the part, keep at it. Be tenacious. If you're not willing to put forth the effort, if you're not willing to do the work, handle the rejections, memorize the lines, if you're not willing to be a Christian, then don't kid yourself. McDonald's is hiring. But if you can get through it, like an audition, one day we can look back and say, I knew you win. That would be my goal. Right now, we're America, a shadow of our former self, a shell of what we were intended and what we once were. It doesn't matter if you want to look at yourself as a Christian or as a patriot or whatever other example, definition you want to give yourself to relate to the people that were quoted. They took action. That's what made them great. And they took action through their virtue, through their faith. That's what we need.